Hello guys, and welcome to my channel, a channel that's dedicated to development and guidance of tennis parents, tennis players, and tennis coaches. If you watch my videos, most of them are dedicated towards interviewing other industry professionals like coaches, physios, trainers, players. Today we're gonna flip the tables a little bit and you guys get to ask your questions to me. In fact, you already did through my Instagram, and if you're not following me on Instagram, this is your chance to do so, because through that social media source, you can actually communicate with me a little bit closer and, just watch my routine and just get to see a little bit more of a day-to-day kind of life and just connect with me a little bit more. So what's going to happen is I'm just going to read out your questions and just answer them. And if you guys are enjoying this kind of content, I would appreciate if you leave a like under this video. Without further ado, let's get started. And your questions in no particular order, and I've read them before, but I haven't prepared anything I'm gonna answer yet, so it's just gonna be as pure and natural as it gets. So let's let's get started. Okay, so the first question is how to practice solo with a basket of balls and no wall. First of all, it's very admirable that somebody wants to practice on their own. I feel like in today's day and age, everything has to be organized and everything needs to be scheduled, and so the fact that you have a desire to do that, that's already, you're like one step ahead of your competition. But to answer your question, how to practice solo with a basket, like the first thing comes to my mind is obviously like just go out there and serve. One thing is, I do think you need to always, no matter when you're serving, like you pretty much must do targets. It's just, that's how I personally approach serving. Like unless it's something super technical, super specific that you're working on, targets must be present at all times. Like I just remember Serena Williams, who always would, after the practice or majority of the time, would put up some cones on the court, and she wouldn't leave until she finished serving into those cones, just knocking them off completely, which is again like one of the simplest way to, I guess, you can work with a basket. And of course you can self-feed the ball and just work technically on something, and just nothing new here. Like it's pretty obvious, but I think if you do have that desire and the time to go out there and practice on your own, I think that's already like a big deal. And you're clearly ahead because you're thinking, how can I maximize my time? So I think that's great. I need to teach my kid to level out the ball. Any tips? Well, it's hard to teach technique on a video like this, but think about it like this. Your trajectory of the ball is a direct response to the path of your arm, path of your racket. So if you want the ball to go like this, then your arm needs to go like this. Yeah. If you need the ball to go a little bit more level, then your arm needs to go a little bit more level. So it's pretty simple, and it's easier said than done, of course, on a video like this. But nonetheless, just try out there, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna achieve a result. Experiment, like take a tennis court, a tennis lesson as your lab. Like imagine you go into a lab and you're just trying to experiment on different things and like see the reaction and stuff like the same thing. Like whatever, like make a couple of mistakes, make the ball go over the fence, make the ball go in the bottom of the net, and you'll eventually will figure out what you need to do to put the ball on the court. Just like that, No reason to afraid to make a mistake. Okay, so next question: how do I grow my hair back? Okay, next question. So I don't think I'm the right person to ask, man, but if you find out the answer, you do know how to reach me, right? Okay. What is one thing that helped you recharge after a busy week? That's a big one, because I do feel like a lot of coaches get burned out, and I see it and I feel it myself, because we're trying to help as many people as possible. We're trying to spend a lot of time on the court just because we want to help everybody, right? But it's so important that coaches take that time off too. And we always talk about players taking the time off, players taking that day off, and just recharging. But we as coaches, we have to do that too. We don't have to forget that we are people too, and we, cannot simply just go back and forth, without any rest, because it affects the quality of the lesson we do. I always judge myself, like, is my first lesson of the day as good as my last lesson of the day? And if I see that I'm kind of like, okay, the quality is dropping, I'm either reducing the number of hours I'm doing per day, or I'm taking more time off, or so it's very important that you first of all monitor how much time off do you need, and then when you actually have that time off, what I like doing is just doing something completely unrelated to sports, unrelated to tennis, of course, and those things will include like photography. I'm a huge photography fan. I love taking pictures, nature, cars, just like some, Americana vibes, portraits, anything just to kind of get my mind off the busy week that just passed and the busy week that's going to be ahead. So yeah, just taking pictures does a lot for me. Also, I love spending time with my fiance. Just whatever we do, we always end up doing something super fun, like going to local festivals, markets, going, camping, and just cold plunging, whatever that is. It's just something that's just completely unrelated and completely that makes you forget about the week that just passed, and just amazing, It allows you to come back more fresh the next week and love your job even more. And that's, I feel, the feeling that we as coaches need to have in order for us to be driven and to spread that passion to our students. Because if we are feeling burned out, then our student will not pick up that passion from us, that love for the game. So we need to be fresh first. We need to care about our own health as coaches. All right. So moving along, who or what is your daily inspiration? Actually, I think I don't mean to sound very cheesy, but it's the community that motivates me a lot. I subscribe, obviously, and I'm following a lot of coaches on Instagram, and what they post and what they say and what the message they're spreading motivates me a lot. It says that, like, everybody's putting in hard work and everybody's trying to do the best job to inspire, to motivate, to push their students to the next level. That inspires me a lot. A lot of inspiration comes from people that work around me, that I see how much, desire they have to improve their players, how much passion, how much of a work ethic they have, and it's contagious. It's always contagious to work around passionate people. So those are my daily inspirations. People, pretty much. Like, if I can sum it up, I would say that's just people, which is a big one, especially in our industry. That's pretty much built on motivation, on passion, and if you don't have that, it's very hard to to find that motivation. So 100%, I would say people. Moving along, how to teach ball tracking spacing to beginners. That's a very good question, and that's something that I find a lot of kids are lacking, like especially like U10 players. Like, the amount of players I see like on a monthly basis, like new players that are coming to me or to our academy, and it's just so much of them are lacking physical skills in general, but in particular the spacing, ball tracking skills like you're mentioning. So I feel your pain, if because I definitely, that's painful for me to always see like the kid doesn't understand like spacing. So the simple thing is that you can do is just simply work with different kinds of balls in the warm-up. With those kind of kids, with those kind of players, I typically spend 10 to 15 minutes just working on their hand-eye coordination, their like spacing, different kind of balls. So I'm using soccer balls, I'm using basketballs, I'm using tennis balls, baseballs, just for them, balloons if they're very young. So just so they are understanding exactly where they have to be in relation to the ball, that helps a lot. And then obviously you would add like tennis balls and just hand feeding, and for them to really understand where they have to be at a slower pace, because once you add feeding and if you place a racket in their hand, everything becomes so much more complicated, and they just like too much. It's like overloading their brain. It's too much for them to process, and so you need to really slow it down, use different balls in different situations, so in that way they can, over time, it's not gonna happen like, you know, in a week. It's just a month's worth of progressions that you need to do in order to see that, like, a visible result. But definitely I would say working with different balls, and even like 10 to 15 minutes, if you do it every time you see them, it's gonna make a huge impact. And of course, if they play other sports, it's gonna help. So like, let's say that they play tennis and then they go and play any other ball sport, that's gonna be huge. That's gonna help them with perception, you know, with understanding where they have to be in relation to the ball. So 100%, that's a very good question. Okay, what is the best advice or best way to practice a serve with slice on it? So a slice serve, I mean, it's no matter what serve you're practicing, no matter what shot you're practicing, the basic and the fundamental, it's understanding where exactly do you have to, you know, contact the ball. So it's all right, so let's see. I knew this would be handy at some point. So anyway, so it's like, if this is the ball, I have to understand which part of it I have to hit. Okay, so if I'm hitting a slice and I'm hitting from here to the other side, I'm looking at 2 o'clock. I need to hit that 2 o'clock spot. I'm hitting a little bit of the side of the ball that will make sure the ball goes out wide, and I have to hit slightly the top of the ball, okay, in order for me to hit a little bit shorter. And once you get that racket angle, you'll see that the ball, you know, completely goes off the court, moving your opponent away, and you'll see that slice. What's important is that you need to hear that slice sound of the strings moving, like I don't know if you can hear it, but it's like this sound, and you'll get it once you see it, and it's just all about the racket angle. So that's just, you know, you going out there with the basket of balls, like something that you can do on your own. You don't need a coach for that. What you also can do is just simply toss more to your right, because that will allow you to easier hit on the side of the ball, just to get that slice feeling. And then slowly you can get the ball a little bit higher, a little bit more above your head. So not so much to your right, not so much low, but it's more about, like, you know, just for you to get the initial feel, and then you can progress to like a full motion serve. So that's about that. Can you please recommend a good coach in Montreal who can help me to be a pro player? I'm 13 years old, thanks. Oof, that's a tough question. The reason it's a tough question, because Montreal has so many good coaches, and if I recommend you like one or two, I'll just be doing you a disservice by not mentioning everybody else. So, I mean, you have so many options there, and I don't think you can go wrong if you just simply reach out to any top academy. And I think you're gonna be in good hands. Honestly, I don't feel comfortable recommending somebody in particular, because there's just so many good coaches. Tips for bad days, both when you feel bad or when you're playing bad or have played bad. This is, again, something that I see a lot in juniors, obviously, and this is where you have to start understanding that no matter the bad day, and listen, we're all people here, right? Like, it all affects us. It affects us, adults. Of course, it's gonna affect juniors, but you have to understand that, okay, even on a bad day, maybe you had a fight with your mom before you came to practice, or, you know, you broke up with your girlfriend, whatever, it doesn't matter. So you come on court, it's for your own benefit to get the best out of it. It's just for your own benefit. If you go on court and you're still thinking about it, you're not gonna have the best practice. Some players use it as a therapy. So they just, okay, I'm going on court, you know what, for the next 2 hours, nothing bothers me. I'm just gonna work my hardest even more. Some players even force themselves to elevate their level, to practice even harder, just to get that anger, frustration, whatever the emotion they come on the court with, just to let it out. Just let it kind of fuel your practice, as opposed to allowing that feeling to drag you down. So that's, one thing to consider. I think it's also important to understand that don't be so hard on yourself if you have a bad day. I know I always have tough conversations with myself whenever I think I didn't perform good, whether as a coach or as a player or as a hitting partner. So I know I'm tough on myself, but at the same time, it's like, it's okay. It's just one day. It doesn't define you, who you are as a tennis player. So it's also important to understand, okay, let's say you did your best, you tried your best, didn't work out. That's okay. There's another day tomorrow to redeem yourself. So I feel like it's kind of like, try to make the best out of the practice, but also don't, go down on yourself for not doing what you expected initially to do. That's perfectly fine. And that's something I understood with experience. It's just like, it's okay. There's going to be another day, another opportunity. Even if you're trying to be a pro, it's like, it's okay. Look how many players lose, and they, how many practices were tanked throughout that person's career. That's okay. They still made it. They still were able to come to the high level. It's fine. Just don't be tough on yourself. There's another day to prove you're good. Okay, that's important. All right. How do I choose a tennis coach for my kid, 5 years old? This is, I think, this age, 5 to 7 to 8, whenever they're starting playing tennis, I think this is such a crucial age to make that right call, how to choose a tennis coach. I recorded a video a while ago. You can check it out on how to choose a tennis coach. But if I'm being just like completely simple with my answer, make sure that you choose a coach that A, loves the game and is very fun to be around with. It's just probably even more important than their technical knowledge and tennis knowledge in general. If that coach can, spread that passion and love for the game, and your kid can just get a little bit of that, you're good. That coach completely made his contribution to your child's development. That's like hands down. Next thing is just to make sure that the coach knows fundamentals, because this is like, and I cannot stress this enough, because I see so many kids that are coming at certain age, like 9, 10, 11, and their technique is just not up to standard. We're talking basic things, but it's not up to standard for whatever reason, and it just takes time away from their development. So it's important that we don't waste time. We pick the coach right away who has a passion for the game and who knows some basic tennis fundamentals. That's it. For the first stage, that's going to be important, and that's all you really need to think about. Okay, what's the cheapest way to train in the winter? Okay, this is very relevant, especially in Canada. We spend a lot of time practicing indoors, and obviously everybody's trying to maximize their time indoors. In summer, we can just go out in public courts and just play. That's no problem. In winter, it gets a little bit trickier with court times and all the fees, So I get where that question is coming from. So what's going to be important to understand is A, if you're really trying to be low budget and try to save as much money as possible, understand that it doesn't have to be organized. You can organize everything on your own, and a lot of fees actually are coming from organization. So if you want to join the program, it's going to be higher cost because everything's organized. You have same kids, same level, it's convenient, but it's pricier. So try to find players that you want to practice with and reach out to them directly. Try to find a club where most of those kids train, and usually it's or some neutral club where it's the location is somewhere in the middle around all the clubs where those guys are training, and you can reach out to them and just simply organize your hits on your own at the time that works for you, and you'll end up just paying basically court fees and membership fees. That's kind of like the lowest I would say that you can get away with to in order to hit like still some minimal hours of training and, you know, achieve your goals. Is it going to be tough? Hell yeah, because you need to be very disciplined for that. You need to really spend a lot of time to find everybody, to agree with everybody, to arrange, you know, then just cancellations. So you have to be ready for all these sudden things. But at the same time, if the goal is to minimize the cost, I think that's the way to go. And that's it, guys. I gotta be honest with you, this was more fun than I was expecting to be, and I would love to hear more questions from you. You know, this allows me to communicate with my audience and to, you know, ask some questions that I normally wouldn't, perhaps. And if you want to ask me something directly, make sure that you leave a comment below with your question and I will answer them in my next video. Guys, with that said, I'll see you in the next one.